Thursday, September 26th, 2024. I know.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The district mission is to foster a positive, nurturing, and safe environment to inspire and support ongoing learning and the development of individuals as productive members of society. We must be able to conduct our meetings in an orderly fashion. Our expectation at all board meetings is that everyone conducts themselves civilly and respectfully. In the event anyone is disruptive and interferes with the meeting, they will be asked to leave. If they do not, we will request that law enforcement assist in the process. Roll call.
Mr. Answer?
Here.
Mr. Dackler?
Here.
Mrs. Getter?
Here.
Mr. Mallory?
Here.
Mrs. Neese?
Here.
Miss McGowan? Absent. Miss Bibor?
Here.
Mr. Prince? Miss not here. And Miss Stalker?
Here.
Dr. Blessing? Mrs. Hillard present. And Mr. Homan?
Here.
All right. First, we have the adoption of the agenda. The recommended action is to approve that agenda for September 26, 2024. And next we have D, the recommended action, approval of waiving the reading of the following minutes as presented. The regular board meetings held on August 15, 2024. And then E, the recommended action is approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held on August 15, 2024. F, approval of financial report. The recommended action, approval of financial report August 31st, 2024. And G, recognition of citizens, staff, and students. First we have National Custodian Day, which is October 2nd, 2024. They work while we sleep. Sometimes we walk around them in the halls, not always seeing them or that their work isn't as important. That's why we celebrate National Custodian Day, which rolls around every October 2nd. It recognizes the hard work that it takes to keep our public facilities in tip-top shape, as well as the people who diligently work to make sure we have schools and workplaces that are spotless and sanitary. Custodians are our first line of defense of the war on germs, and often it's a thankless task. National Custodian Day shows appreciation to the custodians who clean the office buildings and schools. So thank you. Our buildings are always super clean. And then Fire Prevention Week. Next month, our buildings will participate in Fire Prevention Week. Since 1922, the NFPA has sponsored the public observance of Fire Prevention Week. In 1925, President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed Fire Prevention Week a national observance, making it the longest-running public health observance in our country. During Fire Prevention Week, children, adults, and teachers learn how to stay safe in case of a fire. Firefighters provide life-saving public education in an effort to drastically decrease casualties caused by fires. This year's theme is smoke alarms. Make them work for you. This year, Fire Prevention Week is observed October 6th through the 12th, 2024, reinforcing the critical importance of developing a home escape plan with all members of the household and practicing it regularly. Our district is appreciative and would like to thank the men and women who serve as part of our Miami Valley Fire District and surrounding fire districts. We would also like to thank members of the Miami Valley Fire District, Mr. Bob Pugh and Mr. Chris Amsler, for providing a variety of resources for our students. Do you want to talk about that at all, Mr. Amsler? Some of the training and education that you provide?
I know that Mike Rink, since it's kind of hard for us to get into schools and come out of what we do currently, we're going to have the crews go in. So I know that Mike Rink is going to have all the crews go in from Maddox Lane all the way up through all the elementary schools to do various programs that are themed for that particular age group. And then the kids enjoy it. All the firefighters enjoy it. They get into the schools to see the kids, and so it's a win-win for both. And they're looking forward to it. And I know they're getting ready, geared up for it here in the next week or two. So it'll be a fun time.
The kids do enjoy it.
They do. They do, especially the young ones. So.
Then next we have a resolution of appreciation. Sorry, thank you. For a retiree, it is recommended that the Board of Education adopt a resolution of appreciation for the following employees. And it's Patty Reese, and I don't believe she's here tonight. I think the administration is going to take her resolution over to her tomorrow morning. Whereas Patty Reese has rendered 11 years service to the Miamisburg City Schools, and whereas Patty Reese's performance, conduct, and sincerity in carrying out her duty has exemplified the highest level of achievement, and whereas Patty Reese has distinguished herself as a substitute, monitor, nutrition services employee, and satellite manager. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Miamisburg City School Board of Education pass this resolution as a token of its appreciation for her outstanding conduct, and that such resolution become part of the permanent minutes of said Board of Education. And she was with the district for 11 years. And then it is recommended that the Board of Education approve meeting opening items C through H. Do you have a motion?
I move that we approve opening items C through H.
Second.
Okay. So first by Mrs. Getter and a second by Mr. Daffler. Any questions? Very good.
Did we get Mr. Creech added too?
We're going to
Did
have
we
him. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. All right, then roll call, please.
Mr. Dackler?
Yes.
Mrs. Getter?
Yes.
Mr. Maury?
Yes.
Mrs. Neese?
Yes.
And Mr. Amsler?
Yes.
All right. Next we have our public comments. Each person who wishes to address the board shall complete this form prior to the beginning of the meeting. Commenters will give his/her name and address. Each person is allotted 3 minutes to speak. The first 15 minutes only of public participation will be allotted for public comments concerning agenda items. An additional 15 minutes for discussion of other topics will provide a total time of 30 minutes for public comments. We will give a 30-second warning so speakers know when their 3 minutes is up. During public participation, each member of the public should direct their comments to the board as a whole. Consistent with our policy, this is not a time to question individual board members or district employees. As a reminder, our expectation tonight is that everyone conducts themselves civilly and respectfully. We will not tolerate profanity, frivolous, repetitive, or harassing statements. And yeah, even though you fill out a green sheet, Mr. Creech, we're ready for you to come on up and introduce yourself as our new House of Representatives.
Well, good evening. My name's Rodney Creech, and I'm going to be your new state rep starting in January. As you all are probably aware, there's redistricting that's taken place, and so Miamisburg and the whole western side of Montgomery County has been added to my district. And I've been working in Miamisburg now for, I shouldn't say working, I've been visiting Miamisburg now for about 6-7 months, just trying to get to know the community. And Jason, thank you so much for the invite this evening. One of the things that I've said, and just kind of give you a little background real quick. How did I get to where I am today? I got into politics, I guess, for the right reason. I know people don't usually hear that. I didn't have an agenda. I didn't have an axe to grind. I had no reason to get into politics other than my grandfather was a township trustee. I'm a fourth-generation grain farmer. And so my grandfather, the place where I live today, fourth generation, he was a township trustee. And so I ran as township trustee in 2007, got elected, served there for 7 years, and then ran for county commissioner in Preble County, which is my home county, and I served there for 6 years, and then ran for state rep. I'm now finishing my 4th year. I tell you that because, a lot of times when people get into politics, they have something they want to get done. I really don't have, I want to serve people. I want to listen and learn. That's, one of the things why I like to, appreciate the invite. I eventually would have been here. I'm glad I'm here quicker since you sent me a text. So I want you to be able to put a face to the name. And if you have an issue, I want you to reach out to me. My business cards have my cell phone number on them. I always say I cut out the middle guy or the gal. If you have a problem, call me direct. And I will tell you this, and I'm very open and honest about it. I'm a grain farmer. I own a business. Also Lawn Plus. I don't know if you all have heard of Lawn Plus. If you give a weed an inch, it'll take a yard. That's how most people know. I'm getting ready to celebrate 20 years on that business. I have 52 employees. So I'm also a business owner, farmer, state rep. I spend the majority of my time as a state rep, and I am a farmer in the spring and the fall. In fact, I told Jason, I said, I might be there for running corn. I may not be able to make it. I may have to wait another month or two, but we have some rain on the way, and we had plenty the last couple days. So just a little bit about me, just so you know who I am. But education is something that has been relatively new to me. I graduated from high school. I graduated from college. I've had kids in school. But like most parents, I've never had, I never had a problem with education and never really delved into it. And then when you get to the State House, you find out it's a major portion of your job. Healthcare and education are the two biggest things that we deal with, and those are the two things that I have the least amount of experience with. And so I lean on education professionals that do this every day. I do believe in local control. So if we can ever get everything back in your hands, number one, I thank you for doing what you do. I know that I tell people, if I had to run for if there was any office that I didn't have to run for, it'd probably be school board, because you guys are dealing with kids and parents. I just deal with, I still deal with kids and parents, but you got a tough job, and so thank you for what you do. But again, if there's issues with you, if there's bills that are coming up that you're passionate about, let us know. You might think we know what's going on, but there's so many moving parts. We have 700 bills in the Ohio House right now, 700 bills. We focus on 20 to 30 of those, and the 20 to 30 that we're focusing on may not be one that you're looking at. So if you call me and bring it to my attention, I can dive into it, look into it, and give you my opinion. The one thing that I will tell you, I don't tell you, I'm going to give you the facts. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. Again, I'm not a politician. If you call me and ask me to get some research, I'm going to follow up with the research. I'm going to tell you what the research is, and love me or hate me, here it is. That's just how I operate. And I'll finish on this. We do have a state rep, Adam Bird. He's from Claremont County, retired superintendent. I do lean on him heavily. We line up on most things. And so, we do have some very good resources in the House and the Senate when it comes to education. But again, I want to lean on my district. I represent you, 120,000 people in Southwest Ohio. And so, again, my door's always open, my phone's always on. I'm going to leave some business cards with you all if you want to pass them around. It's got my cell phone number on it. If you want to grab a coffee or a sandwich sometime over the next couple months, 6 months, whatever, give me a call, and we'll look forward to getting with you. So I don't know if you guys got any questions or anything. But look forward to working with you. Oh, I think.
Next we'll move on to our consent agenda. We have the approval of overnight. There you go. You're good.
Okay, move on to the consent agenda, and we have approval of overnight and extended student trips. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight extended student trips: Tia Louisa, Miamisburg, MBCTC National FFA Convention. And that's in Indianapolis, Indiana. Tia Louisa, Miamisburg, MBCTC Landscape Olympics, Worcester, Ohio. Stephen Elward and Ryan Wintersheimer, MHS Winds, Greenfield, Indiana. Stephen Elward, Ryan Wintersheimer, MHS Winds, Highland Heights, Kentucky. Stephen Elward, Ryan Wintersheimer, MHS Winds, Highland Heights, Kentucky. Katie Lay, Miamisburg High School Tennis, Worcester, Ohio. Mrs. Getter and Mr. Dappler, remember when we went to the Future Farmer? I took a plant and I'm getting like little baby tomato plants right now. Yeah, so cool. And then B, approval of out-of-state travel and overnight student trips. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following out-of-state travel and or overnight student trips. And basically those are all the very same trips. So you can just move on to, yeah, they're all the very same. So C, approval of superintendent's agreement for free attendance. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Emory Davis III for tuition-free enrollment for the 24-25 school year per the Ohio Revised Code 331364F12, superintendent agreement for free attendance. D, approval of tuition rate for 24-25 school year. Section 331708 of the Revised Code provides a formula whereby the annual tuition rate shall be calculated. The in-state tuition rate for the Miamisburg City School District for the 24-25 school year is $9,130.73. This is an increase from last year of $1,347. E, approval of class of 25 early graduates. Michael Black, principal of Miamisburg High School, has recommended Talon Landis and Sterling Thomas for early graduation pending satisfactory completion of all state and local requirements. F, approval of resolution for in lieu of transportation contracts for non-public students for the 23-24 school year. This is an addition. The superintendent and director of business services recommend approval of the following resolution for 23-24 school year as presented. An addition. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Miamisburg City School District declares and determines that it is impractical, time, distance, number of pupils, expense, staffing, to provide student transportation by board-owned buses during the 23-24 school year for students attending Creative World of Montessori, Wilmington Pike, and therefore authorizes in lieu of transportation reimbursement contracts with parents of students attending and being transported to the foregoing school, provided, however, such reimbursement does not exceed the state average transportation cost per student. Said cost to be determined by the State of Ohio Department of Education in spring 24. And G, approval of resolution for in lieu of transportation contracts for non-public students for the 24-25 school year, revised. The superintendent and director of business services recommend approval of the following resolution for the 24-25 school year as presented, revised. Be it resolved that the Board of the Education of the Miamisburg City School District declares and determines that it is impractical, time, distance, number of pupils, expense, staffing, to provide student transportation by board-owned buses during the 24-25 school year for students attending Ascension Catholic, Alexandria Montessori, Archbishop Alter, Bishop Fenwick, Carroll High School, Chaminade Julienne, Sinday Academy, Dayton Islamic School, Dominion Academy of Dayton, East Dayton Christian, Hillel Academy, Holy Angel School, Incarnation, Miami Valley Academy, Miami Valley School, Middletown Christian, Middletown Prep, Montessori South Center of South Dayton, Montessori of Centerville, Spring Valley Academy, St. Albert the Great, St. Charles, Creative World of Montessori, Wilmington Pike, and therefore authorizes in lieu of transportation reimbursement contracts with parents of students attending and being transported to the foregoing school, provided, however, such reimbursement does not exceed the state average transportation cost per student. Said cost to be determined by the State of Ohio Department of Education in spring of 2025. All right. Next, we have approval of consent items A through G. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve consent items A through G. Once we have those motions, we'll have some discussion. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve consent items A through G.
Second.
Okay. So first by Mr. Malley and second by Mr. Ansler. So,
I just have one question for Ms. Hilliard, probably. So, where we figure the formula for our annual tuition, why does that number not equal our forecasted budget for the year?
So that number isn't figured by us, that's determined by the state.
Okay, so that number's given to
That
us
number's given to us.
as far as like that's what our target's supposed to be,
That's-
according to them?
Yeah, that's provided to us and that's what we have to utilize. So there's an entire sheet that tells you every district's tuition that they assign. So I can forward you that if you want to see.
No, that's okay. I rely on your expertise. I was just curious what it meant. Thank you.
Dr. Blessing, did you want to talk about C?
Sure, obviously A and B are out-of-state and overnight trips for students and their coaches or teachers. And for C, that is a tuition-free senior. If students move their senior year and they're in good standing and would like to continue with us, we try to make that happen. So that's what the superintendent agreement is referring to. And then Katrina talked about the tuition rates. And then Mr. Black, we have a few early graduates. It could be from our after-school program or just finishing up credits early so they can graduate. And then I think the in lieu of transportation, I know Mr. Holman shared some information with the board earlier. And so that's getting all that taken care of so we can provide reimbursement for our families that need that.
Yeah, so the in lieu of, just to kind of bring some context to that, overall, these students and families are probably getting the voucher from the state to go to a private school. But to do that, the public school has to transport them. So I'm all about free choice, have all the options you can have, but they put the burden on the public school to transport these kids all over, as you can see, the state or our local region. In return of us not doing this, we have to pay or we got to provide service. So they want to provide an education, which I'm completely okay with, but they don't want to provide transportation. We get stuck with that. And we don't pay it the year of, we pay it the following year. So,
Yeah, there's a process they have to go through to let us know their kids are attending, and then for us to actually verify that the kids actually attended. They have to fill out attendance for that year, and they have to have attended so many days out of that school year. And so that's why it's always paid the following year. And the 24-25 one we approved in August, but we needed to add one now that we have the correct district or the right school IRN. So that's why you saw 24-25 on there again, so.
this is kind of new too. Is this a newer deal or is it?
Yeah, we do it every year, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Getter?
Yes.
Mr. Mallory?
Yes.
Mrs. Neese?
Yes.
Mr. Amsler?
Yes.
Mr. Daffler?
Yes.
Next, we'll move on to the Human Resources agenda items. And first, we have approval of personnel reports, certificated and classified. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel report. Employment in the Miamisburg City School District is contingent upon the candidate submitting to and passing a BCII and FBI criminal record check in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code and pre-employment drug screening in accordance with adopted board policies. And then D, approval of personnel report supplemental stipend, certificated and classified. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel report, supplemental stipend, certificated, classified. And once again, that same clause about the BCII and FBI criminal record check. And then C, approval of human resources, item A and B. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve human resources items A and B. Do I have a motion?
I move for the approval of human resources items A and B.
A second?
Second.
All right. A first by Mr. Daffler and a second by Mr. Amsler. Mr. Hunman?
Nothing out of the order, just normal monthly business, so.
I have a question. So on the stipends, are these, what are these for particularly? What did the certificated and classified people do in order to get paid this money? So can you just give me an overview?
Which stipends?
Either one. I mean, is a supplemental, is that where a lot of the teachers did the science of reading?
That would be a stipend, that they got money from the state to pay that stipend.
Okay, that's neither one of these? It
No,
is?
yeah.
Okay.
The supplementals are part of the teachers' negotiated agreement, so the supplementals include anything from coaches to
Okay.
fine
Yeah,
arts.
I saw lots of those on there. And then the ones on item A, that's the ones where we're paying people who did the science of reading modules this summer. Is that what that is? I'm sorry, I should have
No, you're fine.
given you a heads up before I...
No, you're good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's actually B, under
It's
B,
B.
that's for science and reading, yes.
Yes.
Which is the money come from the state and then we just funnel it out to our employees.
We're actually paying these stipends up front. We do have a reimbursement process portal that once we make the payment, we have a payroll date that we reference. We go into that portal and then we request those reimbursements once they've been paid. And so when would the teachers expect to receive the supplemental stipend? So once these compensations are board approved, we have to have, there are additional compensations outside of contractual language, so that is why they have to be board approved. So they'll be board approved tonight and they will fall on the next payroll.
And the teachers have up to 1 year to complete the science of reading, and there's different levels. So our elementary teachers can receive a stipend of up to $1,200. It's about 21 hours, I believe, of the class that they have to take. And then our middle school and high school content teachers, non-English, they also have to take class as well. I think it's about 8 hours, and I think their reimbursement is about $400. And then all of the administrators, we have to take that as well. But we don't get reimbursed for that, but we have to take the course as well.
So the $400 is for the non-ELA teachers, and the $1,200 is for the teachers who do ELA.
Correct. So there'll be multiple times that we'll be approving the stipends.
I believe the district agreed to do this in 4 different, almost like a quarterly type thing. There's 4 different dates that I discovered today that we've kind of set up as you turn them in, and then we'll have them board approved, and then we'll make the payment, and then we'll claim the reimbursement.
On a high level, what is science of reading? I hear that a lot. I mean, is that just designed to give supplemental training for teachers to help kids that are struggling with reading, or what is it?
It is it's the foundation of their curriculum and what they teach. So it has been studied. It's a best practice.
And it's different than it has been, and so it's new?
Correct. Yes.
It's data-driven, correct?
Yes, data-driven. It has phonemic awareness. There's different parts that reading teachers have to focus on: vocabulary, comprehension. I know I'm not mentioning them all. And there are certain materials. I think Mrs. Dobson shared with you all in the spring that there's only a state listed approved curriculum for reading now, and so you have to adopt as a school. You have some choice. We have some local choice in terms of what we want to select, but it all has to have all of the facets for science of reading and the strategies and the materials. And I mean, there are different tiers, so there are different resources for students that might be struggling, but it is a curriculum. And they are looking at the science of math as well, so that could be next down the line.
So is it required for all schools in Ohio, or
Yes.
so every school has to follow these? It's not something that is
It is a state
supplemental
requirement.
for those that are struggling in those areas?
No, we have to require them. It's also going towards their licensing credentials and some things.
Yes. That's why they have to have it done within a certain time frame.
Well, we all know that if our graduates can't read and comprehend, that's going to really limit their success in life. So,
Definitely. I'm just glad it's not another acronym.
There's a lot of
It's actually
acronyms within it.
3 words, right? Science of reading. Right.
Yes.
Thank you for your
It's
answer.
going to be science of science. Just saying.
Not sure. Stay tuned. Yeah.
All right, roll call please.
Mr. Mowry?
Yes.
Mrs. Neese?
Yes.
Mr. Ansler?
Yes.
Mr. Daffler?
Yes.
Mrs. Getter?
yes.
All right, next we go to agreements and contracts. And A, it is recommended by the superintendent and director of student services to enter into an agreement with Senior Assistance Incorporated for student transportation to the Montgomery County Learning Center North as presented. And then B, it is recommended by the superintendent and director of student services to enter into an agreement with Senior Assistance Incorporated for student transportation to WCESC Western Row facility as presented. And C, it is recommended by the superintendent and director of student services to enter into an agreement with Senior Assistance Incorporated for student transportation to WCESC Phoenix Academy campus as presented. D, the superintendent and treasurer recommend approval of the attached agreement with the Warren County Educational Service Center for student services at the WCESC Social Communications Program for the 24-25 school year. E, this is the approval of agreement with Dayton Arcades and More LLC. The superintendent and treasurer, CFO, recommend approval of the attached agreement with Dayton Arcades and More LLC effective September 15, 2024 through August 14, 2029 as presented. And then F, we have an agreement with Rumpke. The superintendent and treasurer, CFO, recommend approval of the attached agreement with Rumpke Waste and Recycling Services effective August 1st, 24 through July 31st, 29. And then G, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve agreements and contract items A through F. Can I have a motion, please?
I move for the approval of agreements and contracts A alpha through F Foxtrot.
Second.
All right, so first by Mr. Ansler, the second by Mr. Dassler, and Mr. Homan or Dr. Blessing, which one of you want to talk about all that?
Well, I can start first. The
Okay.
first three are transportation agreements. I think about a year ago, we tried to get van drivers classification added to our, and so we're trying to get van drivers so that we don't have to contract out. But these are individual students at individual placements going 3 different directions. And so we've had a long-standing contract, I think, with Senior Assists to help provide that additional transportation for those students. And then the item D is a placement for one of our students at one of the learning centers. And they actually moved into our area and they already attended the learning center, so we have to continue that contract. So those are my, Steve can talk about Rumpke.
Arcade and
The arcade,
the Rumpke.
like soda pop and,
Rumpke.
yes.
Trash.
The Dayton arcades, so as you know, we have a contract with Pepsi. They furnish all of our concessions, Holland, Harmon, at the high school, but they also do a portion of vending machines out there. Well, Pepsi is getting out of the vending machine business with schools. So in order for us to be able to still offer the vending machines in our building, you have a couple options. Either A, we can take them over, order the product, stock them, and do all that fun stuff. Or we can subcontract with the company. Before we were making 20% by having Pepsi do it, by having someone come in and they take responsibility for products that are out of date. They take care of cutting us the check and depositing it. So instead of 20%, we get 15%. So it's,
And we don't have to touch it.
and we don't even have to touch it. It's-
And that's what they do, so we
That's
can
what
have
their
them do
job
it. We don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we checked around with other places and they have a very good track record and hardly any issues at all with them, so.
And they're going to hold all the fees and everything through 29?
Yes.
29, okay. So 5 years, okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask about that student also. Does the state pick up any of that, or are we fully responsible for that contract?
We can go for catastrophic costs and different things depending on the classification of the student and any additional funds that they can seek through, obviously, whatever the state funding formula is for that student, that classification, our DEA funding, and then I know that they can do catastrophic costs for some students if they fit certain categories. So I think that's, and Katrina probably knows more.
So when you service certain students, you can claim them on catastrophic costs, but what you can't do is claim them on catastrophic costs and pay for them with your federal funds. So you're kind of using one or the other type thing. So say you pay a salary for someone, this is just in general, not even necessarily reference to this student, but say you pay a salary for a one-to-one aid. You can claim that one-to-one aid as a catastrophic cost reimbursement, but you cannot use federal funds to make that salary payment as well. That's duplicating that. So you have to choose one or the other. So with this being said, it just depends on where our grants allow us to cover them, if there's a portion of them covered by a grant, and that's more of a, our curriculum that kind of set where they're going to spend those things out of. But there are ways to recoup those costs.
Did you want to talk about the Rumpke one?
Oh, yeah, Rumpke, sorry.
Yeah.
So Rumpke, We switched from a previous company about 3 years ago due to some complications, and we've been with Rumpke for the last 3 years. We've had very good service with them. The city of Miamisburg uses it, so we kind of get a little sense of already in the area in terms of that. And we were able to get them down to a 4% increase for each of the 5 years as opposed to a 5. And just trying to try to arm wrestle them to the ground, but they wouldn't give anything less than a 4. And talking with other business directors around for schools, they were kind of a little jealous that we only got a 4. So we asked to go 5. They were only going to offer a 3, and I said, well, if we give you a 5, will you do that? And they were able to do that. So, but they're very good service oriented with us. They do a lot of, they give us so many roll-offs a year, and then sometimes if we kind of ask them, like, hey, can you do us a favor, they're willing to. But the biggest thing is they do not charge for overages. And that, it killed us last time, the overages, so. And they're a good business partnership, so.
I had something sort of about this. Is it okay if we revisit it during the legislative liaison? Because I had little bit of a different approach to that. Can we revisit some of the stuff a little while? Just for discussion purposes? Or should I discuss it now? No. About the transportation cost and paying for extra services.
Yeah.
The
That would
topic
just
though.
be a different.
Okay.
Is that right?
They told me they were going to pay a Rumpke bill. I was like, hey, let's hear about that.
No.
Well, I do have a question on D about, back to what Corey was saying. How are we transporting that student to the Warren County ESC? I mean, are we transporting them in a van or a bus, or how we?
I would have to go back and see which,
Okay.
because we do have a couple van drivers that do that, but they also transport more than one student at a
Sure.
time in the van. So.
Okay.
But I do believe this one we do transport ourselves. I think so.
In a van or in a bus?
This one might be in a bus.
Okay.
If this is the Mason one, so.
Okay.
A roll call? Good, right?
Mrs. Neese?
Yes.
Mr. Amsler?
Yes.
Mr. Dappler?
Yes.
Mrs. Getter?
Yes.
And Mr. Maverick?
Yes.
Does it pass? So let's move to the financial agenda items. Shannon first.
Okay, thank you. We have authorization for amendment to the appropriations and certificate of estimated resources. It is recommended by the Treasurer CFO that the appropriations and certificate of estimated resources be amended as listed in the attached reports. And B, approval of purchase orders. It is recommended by the Treasurer CFO that the Board of Education approve the following purchase orders. DCTS, $135,450 for Chromebook purchases. And then C, approval of financial items A and B. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve financial agenda items A and B. Motion, please.
I recommend that we approve financial agenda items A and B.
Second.
So first by Mrs. Getter and a second by Mr. Amsler. And Mrs. Hillard, do you want to talk about those?
Yep, so item number A is the authorization for the amendment to the appropriations or certificate. That's a procedural thing here at Miamisburg. What that does is get our appropriations up to where they're supposed to be at in accordance with our estimated resources and making sure that we're not appropriating more than we're actually going to receive. And then item B is approval of purchase orders. This is the purchase order policy above $25,000. That is for DCTS for Chromebook purchases. Just note in there that that is out of PI funds, not your general fund purchase. So very thankful for a healthy PI fund to be able to take that from and not have to see that come out of our general fund.
Can I ask, how are the Chromebooks distributed? Are students required to pay anything for the Chromebooks? Or we purchase these knowing that we're going to need 400 Chromebooks? they're held for future use, or how does that work?
Well, we issue brand new Chromebooks to our freshmen. So at that time, there is a fee. I believe it's $50. And I think they pay that every year that they're in high school. And then they can opt to take that with them when they graduate.
Okay.
And then for our middle school students, they receive them at 6th grade year. And I think there's a fee, but I don't know if it's as much as a high school. It might only be $25.
So in 6th grade, they get it?
They get a Chromebook and they keep it for 3 years. And then our elementary students, they have Chromebook carts. So they have them in their classroom, they don't take them home, but every student, we are one-to-one, so every
Have
student,
access.
yes.
What happens when this Chromebook accidentally comes back broken?
They sign a user agreement, so there are fees assessed or replacement costs involved.
Are there ever issues recovering those costs when that happens, or is it pretty?
Yes, I mean, sometimes they don't pay it, and then when they become a senior, in order for them to
Graduate. They're
graduate,
motivated,
get
settle up.
their diploma, then
Right.
we try to settle. But our building secretaries and treasurers try to be proactive and not let it all hit when they're 18.
You know, a lot of families buy their kids laptops, Chromebooks, stuff like that. So, I mean, do we have to provide these to every student if they already have that means?
We have a BYOD policy, bring your own device policy. So, yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Andrew?
Yes.
Mr. Daffler?
Yes.
Mrs. Getter?
Yes.
Mr. Mowry?
Yes.
And Mrs. Dees?
Yes. Right. Next, we have our acceptance of donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following list of donations. All monies will be used through each school's 018 account unless indicated otherwise. $250 in school supplies from Habitat condominiums to Bauer Primary School. $150 Lakeshore Learning e-card to Bauer Primary School from the Ohio Department of Health Make Your Smile Count Dental Check Program. Franklin Blackhawk soccer goal and an Athletic Works 9x8x6x5 net valued at $100 from the Oliveras family to Jane Chance Intermediate School. $150 from Katie Sperry to Miamisburg City School for student lunch fees. $500 from the Miamisburg Chapter 224 Women of the Moose for Jane Chance Intermediate and Medlar View Primary School multiple disability equipment. $20,000 from the Ohio State Eagles Miamisburg Area 2306 for Jane Chance Intermediate and Medlar View Primary School multiple disability equipment. $10,000 in MHS softball program. $10,000. $200 from the Greater Dayton Mall Regional Business Association for Jane Chance Intermediate and Medlar View Primary School MD equipment. $500 from Skyline Chili for Jane Chance Intermediate School and Medlar View Primary School MD equipment. School supplies valued at $250 from Sycamore Spring Rehabilitation Facility to Mark Twain Primary School. School supplies valued at $200 from St. James Methodist Church to Mark Twain Primary School. School supplies valued at $7,500 from Miamisburg Assembly of God Church to Mark Twain Primary School. Do you have a motion?
I move to accept donations.
Second.
So first by Mr. Daffler and second by Mrs. Getter. I just wanted to say thanks. That's just really exciting about all the new equipment at Jane Chance and Medlar View for our students that have multiple disabilities. I'm sure the students are going to have a lot of fun, and the other discussion?
I know that equipment that's not placed yet, I'm sure, are for the MD students, but what if another student has what I call a restriction, a temporary restriction, like they're in a wheelchair temporarily or on crutches, would they be allowed to use that equipment as well? Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Daffler?
Yes.
Mrs. Getter?
Yes.
Mr. Mallory?
Yes.
Mrs. Neese?
Yes.
And Mr. Ansler?
Yes.
And up next we go to our reports, and our MVCTC news by Molly Williams. She's not able to come tonight. She's doing the chocolate walk downtown Miamisburg. So I believe Dr. Blessing's going to read her report.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. NDCTC has been back for a little over a month, been rolling along with easier dismissal of the students due to the new facilities and parking lot arrangements. The building is at its maximum capacity, so new programs or additional students will take extra consideration. The end of their first quarter is October 8th. The staff continues to change and grow with the retirement of one teacher and the addition of several new staff and substitute teachers. A Student Wellness and Success Fund is being developed in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 3317.26. The balance in the general fund is $47,577,348.28. Some modifications to the general fund include the LFI building project, uniforms, school supplies, Rotary Fund, Student Activity Fund, state grants, Aspire, and Perkins. In addition to the meeting, the board was required, as our board, to take the fraud training, and all of us, which include watching a video provided by the state. So I think some of the board has finished their fraud training, and I know Katrina wants to make sure everyone finishes in a timely manner to meet our qualifications, as well as our staff. And Miamisburg students continue to grow and be involved with MVCTC by being student ambassadors and officers in the Skills USA. Auto Tech with Ivan Hock, working with Fox Motors in Miamisburg. I am not meeting this evening, as Ann mentioned, due to the Miamisburg Merchants hosting a chocolate walk. So anyway, I guess if anyone finishes this evening and wants to hop downtown, I don't know how late they're going, but she said, see you next month. Thank you.
All right, next we have our legislative liaison, Mr. Mallory.
Thank you, Mrs. Neese. You know, with the legislature being out of session, there isn't much to the report, but there's something that when I talk to our state legislators and when I talk to people in the public school realm, there seems to be a disconnect between what representatives at the state level see as adequate levels of funding versus what we receive and have to execute. And the prior consent where we approved the transportation costs and the services that are specific to, that was for a single student, right?
Yes.
The one, and that was over $80,000, right?
78.
So it's a lot of money for the needs of just one student, and I know we have more than just one student. So I was hoping if it didn't create an unnecessary burden, is there any way, well, let me wrap this up. So the perception is that when you have a special needs student that there's enough federal and state grant money to wholly care for that student. When I look at the numbers on the back end, when we sit and meet as a board, that is not the case. And it seems like there is a lot of mandates that we refer to as unfunded mandates, where we're required to do things and only get a portion of the funding that it takes to execute that according to the criteria that we're given that we have to follow by law. Is there any way to take our district as an example and take those situations and show what funding we get and what we have to spend to show that disconnect? Just to start that conversation with people, you know, at the State House that vote on this legislation to consider school funding and how they may need to relook at these things. So it doesn't become a subsidy burden for other funds that we receive for students, because it seems like a lot of times we're robbing from Peter to pay for Paul and moving money around all over the place just to try to figure out how to get by. So I just as a creative conversation, but until I understand those facts better, I don't want to reach out and start this conversation. So is that a reasonable thing to put together? Or
So those conversations have been taking place for a very long time. And just for example, I just saw Mr. Creech earlier in the last week, maybe this week, last week,
Yep.
where treasurers and superintendents were put in a room with our reps to kind of share those concerns with the burdens that we're feeling when it comes to federal funding and when it comes to funding our schools. So you're not out of line to want to have those conversations. They're already happening. We just have to keep speaking up and keep putting out there what it's causing and what's happening and how we feel. You know, we're struggling to make our ends meet because of the funding, and so it's not a new conversation. It's not a new thing. That's why we met with them, and we've made several points last week on what we want, you know, to voice to them and what can you work on for us. So that's happening. Always contact, you know, our folks like Mr. Creech and concerns.
I guess what I was asking for is, you know, being an elected official myself, representing my community in the interest of our schools and our children and our taxpayers, I wanted to see if I could get a sampling, even if it isn't super detailed, of the total expenditure that we have to pay annually and what goes unfunded, just so that I could speak from a position of knowing what I was talking about with real numbers in those conversations.
Yeah.
That's not so. When I look at school finance, I really am dependent on somebody like you to tell me what it means in specific areas, and like what you gave us here with the grant. This is great. I mean, it helps us.
So Stacy actually prepared that for us. That was from our public federal grant review meeting that we had at 5 o'clock right before this one. And so she kind of reviews this, and this is really good. Dr. Blessing actually asked her to go ahead and let us hand one of these out to you because it is beneficial for you to see the breakdown of the allocations that we're receiving and what we're spending it on and where it's going and how we're monitoring that. So that is something that's good for you guys to kind of reference and get a better understanding. But until legislature changes, we are mandated to pay for the costs that are associated with these students.
Oh, I understand that.
And so these are higher level fights that we just kind of have to continue to keep going with. But we can come up with certain costs, like if we get together and you want to see a certain, I just need something specific to try to give to you.
Really what I would like to see is two numbers. What are our total costs for mandated, is non-typical the correct way of, you know, how do you, a student that has to go to, like the student we're sitting, how would you refer to those cases? A total cost and a total income, and understand what the disconnect is there. Really just the two numbers.
The difference of what we're being funded, what we're out of our pocket.
Yeah, the difference of what we're having to pay out, because I mean, just one student, if we have to pay 80 grand and we receive 11 grand for him, the disconnect for that student is 79,000 bucks, or whatever the number is, you know, after the transportation costs. I just want to start to understand that a little bit, because you get in these environments with people and they ask you, what are your concerns? And you tell them your concerns, you need to have at least a little bit of a understanding of the actual information to be able to have a fruitful, productive conversation with them. So, anyway, that's my legislative work.
Well, I would also recommend, even for Rodney, I mean, states are funded by the state. So each state has a different funding formula for how it funds schools. And I go to meetings with superintendents from Ohio, but also from different states, and it's just very interesting to find out how each funding model is different and how some states have a higher priority, I think, for funding for schools, where they don't rely on such local, offerings or taxes versus a state-funded model. So I think I've always said that at all of our meetings. I would hope that our legislators are also studying the other state models.
Well, you have the benefit of doing your job in two different states. I mean, you know, and talking with other people from other states, which model is the best that you've seen?
Indiana funds at a much higher rate than Ohio.
Yeah, they don't do it from property taxes?
No. I think maybe 5% of their budget comes from property taxes, but it's a state sales tax. So, and that's how the formula is figured. And then
We're
there's
very
a,
reliant on local capacity here.
yes, yeah. And I know other states have different formulas and they use kind of those best practice models, like if you have 400 students, then the state funds an assistant principal, so just, they all have different formulas and how they model. And we appreciate the local control in terms of state, but it is also interesting to see how funding varies from state to state.
Well, it seems like it's interesting. It seems like, I hear that a lot, that, a lot of state officials are all for local control. But it's local control with rules that come from way not local. So it's a balance of that. It'd be easier if you had local control on local rules, versus local control on far away rules. It becomes much more complex.
I speak to that as the illusion of local control.
Yeah, right.
I don't believe we have a student achievement report, right, Mr. Ansler?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Next month, we'll have student of the month and all that goes with that. So, next month.
We're trying, Mr. Ansler. We still have 28 minutes before you have to leave. Okay. And then next we have the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition Liaison, Mrs. Getter.
We had our Zoom meeting on September 19th, and several very important things coming up. They always sponsor a poetry contest, and it's coming up, and they said the teachers will be notified of the dates of the competition. And if you participate in the poetry contest, students participate, there are scholarships to be won. So I'm looking at you all over there. Get your poetry, get your pen sharpened or whatever to be ready to go. And then September is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. And I learned that, we have a 911, but there is also a 988 that you can dial. It's a mental health crisis line. There's also a 988 website that would be very good for people to check out. Option 1 on the 988 is a veterans crisis line, and then option 2 is for Spanish speaking. So it's wonderful that that's available to people who might be in a mental health crisis. All right, awesome.
Yeah, we have, I carry one of these right in my pocket, and if I'm talking to a staff member or a parent that maybe they're struggling themselves or their kid's struggling with something and not sure, I have these in my office upstairs. I'm more than happy to give them out, but we're looking at giving these to some of our counselors too at the high school and places like that if there are issues that it's a number that can help them out, the 988.
I think that's awesome. They shared how many calls. They get thousands of calls. But people aren't going to call if they're not aware that it's available. And we know that a lot of our young people are in crisis, and a lot of our students are dealing with a poor home environment, and their parents also are dealing with drugs and alcohol problems. So this would be great for all students and their parents.
And they'll give you referrals of where to go. And it might just be that, you're struggling not to do with your kid, or maybe you're struggling something not to do with your spouse or whatever, and they're very helpful. It's a very well thought through program.
Yeah, I was very impressed by that. We also had a presentation from the It's Time, the number 2.org organization, and it's for youth mental health, bullying, and teen suicide. That's what they deal with. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people ages 10 to 34. And in 2022, we had 6,529 suicide deaths in young people 10 to 24. That just breaks my heart. 1 out of 3 youth struggle with mental health. So this was a very good meeting. The presentation was excellent. Actually, one of our local physicians started this program, Dr. Brian Ciccarelli. He's one of our orthos in the Kettering Health System, and so he said this is really near and dear to his heart. So again, it's It's time, the number 2.org, if anyone's interested. And our next meeting will be in November.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Scudder. And Mr. Jaffler, I don't believe we have any district news and information this month, so we'll go on to our roundtable comments. We'll start with our student reps. Melissa?
Hi, everyone. I don't think we have much to say. School has officially kicked off, so we're still adjusting to that. It's going great so far. I'm enjoying my senior year, and we're really looking forward to October for getting back to elementary school and starting our little initiative. Thank you.
I don't have that to say except when we talk about September being Suicide Awareness Month, Andrew and I are in a club at the high school called Hope Squad, which is basically, we just help students with mental health, just kind of people that we could reach out to. And something that we're doing this year that we already did is we put QR codes up in our bathrooms all around the school, and they have every resource you would think about from like local to national, and if you're in student like the athletic bathrooms, you should see them. So if you need help, please like reach out. And we're trying to be more involved in the school this year. So I think each month we're focusing on one big like topic. I don't know October's, but I know we have our Hope Week coming up, which we're doing a ton of fun activities around the school just to spread positivity. So we're really excited for that. And yeah, I'm also just really excited for October. It's going to be a great experience to go into those schools, and look forward to sharing that with you guys.
I thought this was pretty cool. I apologize for walking in late, and I saw this was the first thing I saw, and I thought this was amazing. I believe our dates for the elementary school project starts on the 8th, 7th, one of those 2 days, and our first schools we're going to consist of Kinder, Bauer, Jane Chance, and Mound, I believe. And then, so those are the month of October schools. So we'll have a report next month's meeting. And then November, hopefully, we can set up dates with the 3 remaining schools so we can meet with all the schools within the next 2 months. I don't know, I love this plan. It's been in the works since probably about July when we started meeting with the principals. I'm really excited because it falls under the whole umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we don't want to leave out the little guys too. So yeah, I'm definitely excited. So yeah, thank you.
Looking forward to hearing about it.
So to kind of give a little shout out, we have a lot of senior nights coming up. It's hard to believe that we're going to be rounding out fall sports coming up soon and get ready for the winter sports. But it's great to see all the seniors in their final fall sports going on here. And then also, just as an update, kind of talking about legislative program called Rat Back. In this state of Ohio is rolled out. And so typically when anyone who holds a certificate or licensure in the state, teachers, assistants, all of our coaches have to have a pupil activity permit. Those are credentialed licenses. And so it goes into a system that if something happens to someone, we're notified, right away, like, hey, something has happened here. So with the new legislation now, all classified and all school bus drivers and van drivers have to be enrolled in that program. So bus drivers and van drivers have always been enrolled in it, but it's been a different module out there in terms of Rat Back. And the reason I bring this up is Heather and Nicole and Amber and Brenda have really been doing a job. We've had to have every classified staff come in who does not hold a license to come in and create an Ohio ID account and get them registered and how to get them fingerprinted, and the directions have not been very good. that we've received. So I just want to tell them thank you very much.
It's gotten smoother every day.
It's gotten smoother every day. We're about 1:30 here every day. We have a group that comes in and we take them and help them do that. But I just, we talk about legislation, in terms of that's something that came through and we're ahead of most districts, but October 31st, all drivers have to be in the system and van drivers or their certificates pulled. And all other classified people have to be done by December 31st, so.
Is that system so that if something happens and they're not at work, that you're immediately notified with us, like in between times you would normally run through?
It does a lot of different things in terms of notification. If something out there happens that maybe they're doing things they shouldn't be doing, it automatically, if they have a teacher license or an aid permit or a coaching permit, we would get that automatically, like, hey, this
In between your normal review times.
Exactly.
You don't get fired from X to come here. It's in the system.
Right, and so this covers the other half of all your employees that don't hold that. And really, in all honesty, as we look at protecting our kids and making sure it's a good thing, it just takes a long time to get them in the system. But I just want to do a shout out to them because they've done a really good job. It's been very time consuming, so.
I'll be quick. So I have to shout out to our boys soccer team because this week they beat Centerville for the very first time. So very excited to coach Thunderman and the team. So congratulations. If you haven't seen them, give them a congratulations, first time in program history. So that was exciting. And yes, as Steve said, a lot of senior recognitions going on right now. The band is in full performance and competition mode. So that's exciting. And we do have a work session next Thursday to talk about our state report card, because if you haven't seen it, we've had some great progress and definitely some successes to celebrate. So very proud of Miamisburg. Go Vikings. So very good.
We're good.
I just wanted to express my thoughts for all of the people that are in the path of the hurricane tonight. That's pretty scary. I know my son lives in Atlanta and he's an insurance agent, so I think he's going to be pretty busy. I just hope he's safe. I just want to say thanks to all our custodians. The buildings are beautiful. I've been in other school districts. They don't compare. And thanks to our firefighters who provide that education for our students. I was a teacher. The kids really embrace that information. They practice it at playground time. So thank you for that. I just wanted to, I don't usually use this platform to say anything about my family, but I just wanted to thank my brother. His name's Mark Becker. He just put out the 4th edition of the sports record book on the Berg website. And he compiled that with the help of the coaches and the athletic directors. But it's a 300-page document. And it has records from 1899 to present. And you can go to athletics on our website at the top. This is for people that might watch the meeting. I know a lot of people do. Menu, then more, Vikings HQ, and the Athletic Hall of Fame and records. It's just an amazing record book, and he does all of this from Nebraska with the help of the coaches and the athletic directors. So I wanted to give him a little shout out.
The only thing I want to say is we've got a lot going on in the treasurer's office. We're implementing new programs for absence management. We've got a little bit of streamlining going on with processes, so it's been a really busy week for us in the office with staff members working together to get everything functioning. It's not always simple to switch every single employee to a new system. So we're working together on that, and we'll get through it. We're also working with the rest of the team to get the RAP back going. Also the fraud reporting. There's a lot of things that the state wants from us that we got to get ready to go, so we're pushing through it. But it's been a good 2 months so far.
I want to give a shout out to the custodians. That's for sure unsung heroes. they are sleeping, are working while we're sleeping. And working odd shifts is never fun. But thank you to all those and all the hard work. Mr. Creech, thank you for introducing yourself, spending some time here with us this evening. Also, the donations, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's amazing every month what the community does. It's great, greatly appreciated. And I will do a little shout out here to the 8th grade boys football team for beating Centerville. They have struggled for last year, and they played a great game last night and beat Centerville. So that's all I got. I'll be quick. I too wanted to say, I don't know if this thing works or not. I'll be quick. I too wanted to say about our custodial staff daily that they pick up after our staff and students, as long as our grounds crew as well on the outside. You go to a Friday night football game, you come in and all the staff that goes on to put that on from the gate all the way in to the people that are on the sidelines, so they do an outstanding job each and every week. But our custodial staff does a tremendous job throughout the year, so they definitely need a recognition. I always say, I don't care how long you've worked somewhere, but if you always go out on your own terms and you retire to walk away on your own terms, that's quite a success. So to Ms. Reese, congratulations, and I hope she fulfills her retirement to the best of her ability. Again, I would like to say, Mr. Creech, thanks for coming. Jason, thanks for having him here. I did have a couple questions to Mr. Creech. Your term ends when? And I know you say to call you on your cell phone, but seriously, with everything that you do have going on, and I kind of know some stuff about you, when is a good time to contact you in all seriousness? By either phone or email?
Is it okay to answer?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as my term ends, I'll have a new term starting in January.
Okay.
4 years left.
Okay.
So we have term limits. Best time to call me is anywhere from 7 in the morning to 11 at night.
Okay.
That's when I'm awake.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, and I'm being serious about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
That's all I got.
How many minutes do we have left?
8. 13.
I would also like to welcome Representative Creech, and please come and visit anytime. We'd love to have you. I'd like to congratulate all of the members of the homecoming court. The parade was so much fun despite the heat. I thought I was going to pass out, but I didn't. And I would like to congratulate our Mr. Amsler on being the honorary captain of the game, and he is one of my favorite firefighters.
How long was that by?
Appreciate that. He can't help that. And then a huge thank you to all who donated funds for the MV equipment. It's just so timely because about 2 weeks ago, I had just talked to Dr. Blessing about it and how I was hoping, and you know, dreams do come true. I got thousands of dollars for the MD equipment from donations because I do visit Jane Chance. I volunteer there, and I do see some children who have special needs, and it's so exciting that they'll have appropriate playground equipment. That's awesome. And that segues into my thank you to the fantastic custodians, because I happened to be at Jane Chance today, and I'm constantly noticing how clean the building is. And being a nurse, I know that clean buildings help keep us healthy. So I really appreciate the cleanliness and neatness of our buildings. And then also best wishes to Miss Reese on her retirement. I hope she fulfills all of her dreams.
I'll be brief, Chris.
Thank you.
First, I want to welcome and congratulate Mike Brim as Miamisburg's new chief of police. I was very fortunate to grow up with Chief Brim, and as a young kid, played t-ball with him at Rice Field. And I remember being real little, and his dad at the time was a police officer in West Carrollton. And I kept in touch with him through buying equipment from a mechanic over the years, and always kept tabs on Mike. And admired his career at the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. And see him as our new chief of police is really great news for our community, because that's such a critical role to have someone that really understands the values of the community. And I think Mike would be great for all the young officers and give them support. So I want to thank Mike for his service and congratulate him on his new role. I want to thank Representative Creech again for coming to introduce himself. You know, it makes me think, you farmers have dealt with drought, and now it's supposed to rain every day for about 2 weeks.
Another year.
So I know the sacrifice to come here tonight is real, and I appreciate you making it. And my experience with Rodney and getting to meet with him, he's been very approachable, easygoing, easy to communicate with, and that's how it's supposed to be, so people on the local level can have ongoing conversations with people on the state level and kind of, you know, all work for the common good of our community. So thank you so much for your being here, and I look forward to our partnership. I want to thank our 8th grade football team too, because my daughter cheers for the 8th grade, and we've had our struggles, and I'm sure Corey was hesitant to discuss the exemplary center play of Bryce Staffler last night, but yeah, the boys did great. It was fun to see them have some success. The students, the peer-to-peer mentoring, that is awesome. And the more of that our kids can get, the better, because you guys can be everywhere all the time, a lot more than teachers and like Steve can be. So what you're doing there is great. Keep up that good work. Thanks again to all our donors. I had the pleasure of driving Owen Post and Maddie Gross in the homecoming parade. That was a fun experience. I was humbled. You know, see your friends have young kids, and then they grow up, they become seniors, and I was humbled that they even invited and thought of to drive them. But it got me out of walking through the parade and throwing candy on a hot day. So anyway,
We got your bag already next year.
oh, I'm sure you do. I got to, but you know, the one thing I did notice, a couple of the boys, they wore sweaters.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And it was over 90 degrees and humid and sunny and hot, and they had their sweaters on. I couldn't believe it.
But I heard that you called and begged to drive as soon as you found out that we were going to have to walk all the way downtown.
I didn't beg. No. I was asked, but when I was asked, I thought to myself, hey, what a great idea. Actually, they asked me, do you know anybody with a convertible? And I was like, I don't know, but let me get right on that. So thanks to my Aunt Tammy in Germantown for loaning me her nice BMW convertible to drive them in. I don't want to be too long, but I do want to take a minute and thank our middle school and high school cheerleadership. My daughter's been very involved in that program, as have friends of ours, kids. They work very hard, and they just moved their organization over to the Viking Boosters Association, which I think will be a long-term blessing for that organization. They'll give them all the support that they need. So I just want to thank them for their hard work, because a lot of that's volunteer work, and when you're in a situation like that, too often no good deed goes unpunished. So thanks for all their hard work. And yeah, that's pretty much all I had. You guys already mentioned Hurricane Helene, and I can't help but think the last time I heard 20-foot storm surge, our family frequented Fort Myers. Every year for fall break, we went to Pink Shell. And the last time I saw a 15 to 20-foot storm surge, it destroyed Estero Island. And I can't imagine what it would be like to live in a community that just gets turned upside down on its head like that. So certainly send all my thoughts and prayers to those folks, and hopefully they come through the other side safe and have all the support they need to rebuild their lives. So thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Gross.
Second.
All right, first by Mr. Daffler, second by Mr. Ansler, and roll call, please.
Mrs. Getter,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mrs. Neese,
Yes.
Mr. Ansler,
Yes.
Mr. Dappler.
Yes.